Good morning, guys. Yes, it is morning. There is daylight coming behind the window. It's not dark outside. I'm actually off work today, so I can get an early start on our project that we are working on, which is the Whirlygig Quilt by Pineapple Fabrics. And I'm already looking around for, oh, I see it. I should name my channel the Disorganized Quilter. That's a good idea. And I have my coffee. Okay, so if you watched my last video, I'm bumping my stand. We are working on this lovely little quilt from Pineapple Fabrics. It is using a Diana pack. I will have all the information listed down below where you can find this pattern, where you can buy this fabric. This is so easy. If you watched my first video, the squares went together so quick. I have about half of them put together. So we're going to sew a few of them together again so you guys can see. If you didn't see the first video, you can see how easy these squares go together. So we're going to sew it just one or two together. And the size is a 37 by 51 and a quarter. So not a small quilt, even though this is like it's a crib quilt. You can always make it bigger by adding outside borders, which this one does not have. You can make it bigger by adding outside borders, which I'm thinking of doing. So yeah, let's get started. I did want to clarify in my first video, you saw me matching up fabric, and what I come to realize after I was kind of matching up fabric, you use all of one light pattern, all of it, to one dark pattern, not mix and match, kind of like how I was organizing them in the first video. I soon realized after that, like in between cutting the video, not the fabric, that it's all of one light pattern to all of one dark pattern, and you'll have two sets, and then you'll have a fifth pattern left over. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, and I'm going to scoot y'all down like I normally do. Is that far enough? I don't know. We're going to find out. But here's my pattern. My iron is on. She's not getting hot because she's been sitting. I need to move it around. Okay. Like I said, the Disorganized Quilter. Now, just to show you some of the squares already sewed up. Here's one with a light center. Here's one with a dark center, or a pinwheel. Whirlygig. All right. So, the fabrics I had left. Oh, I need that. I kind of remember how they go. Here's some of the fabric, and here's some of the fabric. These are the opposites of each other. And here is a half a block I've already made. It just needs to be ironed. Somehow I missed ironing that one. So let's go ahead and get my iron hot by moving it around. Yeah, she's a little warm. That'll work. Okay, so these two actually go in this other pile. We're going to use this pile. So when you take your triangles, we have already sewed this part. That was in the first video. You're just sewing the two strips together. You're going to lay out your square, and it goes one light up. So for you, this is down, but for me, this is up. So one up. One to the side. One to the side. And one down. And there is our pinwheel. So now all you do is sew these together. Now I started chain piecing, and I have never chain pieced. I'm scooting over so you guys can see. So I just flip flip it over together. And I want a straight edge to sew from. So I take my corner that I know goes together. And then I'll line up my straight lines here. And we're going to sew and chain. We'll leave it on there. I'm going to take the next two and I'm just going to flip this over. Pick up my corner. And I'm going to flip it over. Put it under. Okay. And I chain stitched all of them together. I made my, I would make my square to see how I like the layout. And make sure my blocks kind of matched up well together. Because some of them are a little wonkier than the others, I will admit. But, you know, I did cut them as good as I could to the best of my ability, but it just seems like one or two came out just a little bit different than the other. You know, we're human. Everything is not going to be perfect, but that's the good thing about quilting. It doesn't have to be perfect, guys. It's for fun. So again, I just laid out my block. I laid out another block, made sure I liked it, and then we're just going to chain piece. So I'm going to continue to chain piece these together. And then I'll show you one more time how to put a whole block together. Okay, guys. So at this point, I have all my squares made. And I'm really loving how this turned out. So for sashing is fabric E. Okay. And it says, sew the sashing strips short ends together from this long strip, cut 3, 51.25. That's a big strip, guys. But 51 1/4 long. Okay. So this is the fabric I chose to do the sashing. I'm just going to flip you guys down again. Okay. And I did take my fabrics and I kind of laid them out because it was between this light fabric and this light fabric. And I kind of just did like this with these two because these were the first two squares I made. And I laid these two fabrics kind of like in between. And I really like this lighter one. So that is the one I went with for the sashing. And I actually had some fabric in my stash that would go so pretty with this. Now this came from my own stash. This was not sent to me. This was from my own stash. But it's a beautiful silver kind of crosshatchy. I thought this would go so good. And I think I have 1 yard. I might do an extra border to go around the edges with that. I'm not sure yet, guys. I'm not sure, but like I said, you can take a quilt pattern and make it your own. So now I'm just going to see if I can slide you guys around. And we're going to take these strips and sew them together. And I'm guessing that's right. It doesn't say to cut these, does it? No, it just says short ends together from one long strip, cut 3. Okay, let's hope. Let's hope and pray, because you know me. And I'm going to sew just right past the selvage. We'll cut the selvage off. Okay, and I'm sewing these long strips together. So I'm not even taking that off the machine. I'm going to take the tail of the top one. and lay my next one right down over top of that. I've learned that from watching YouTube, guys. I've learned that from watching YouTube. And same thing. Okay, and then again, I'm going to take my top one, go to the end, take my end, flip it over. I did flip that one over, right? Yes, I did. Okay. And then right sides together one more time. Just past the selvage. Okay, so now I have one gigantic long strip. Now here's where I'm going to have an issue. I have a very small workspace. Now, another reason I wanted to like film this for you is you do not have to have like these fancy sewing spaces that we see a lot of YouTubers have. I mean, they've, you know, you don't have to. I have a desk that I bought at a flea market. I got it on a bargain. I paid $15 for this huge desk. It does have a Staples emblem on it. I'm going to take all my squares and lay them out of my way. So this big desk, it doesn't have drawers. It has little pockets, like little magazine racks built into the underside. It's just one big desk that is probably 4-ish feet, 3.5 feet long. It's longer than my arm. It's about as long as my arm span, right at my arm span. Okay. I have my sewing machine, I have my cutting mat, I have my ironing mat, and then I have some storage things along the back and my lights. I have a shelf over here with baskets of fabric and craft supplies. I have a shelf over here with candle and soap supplies. I have a shelf back here that is just decor stuff. You do not have to have a fancy smancy sewing room if you want to quilt. I'm just cutting these apart now. These guys here. All right, to get my big long one strip. There it is, one big long strip. I'm going to trim the selvages off now. Some scissors, leaving a 1/4 inch seam-ish. I caught my scissors with my knees. I have days where my hands do not want to work. That's just my hands. I have picked up things before and just completely dropped them right out of my hands. Broke them. Alright, so we're cutting these selvages off to a 1/4 inch here. Ish. Okay, is there one more? Nope, that's it. Here's where I need my husband because he is the math guy. And I'm actually going to iron these seams open, I think. I think that would be better than to one side. So I'm going to quickly just iron these seams. If I can get my fingers in there to press it open. We're going to iron them open. My blocks I ironed all to like one side. But I think this would do better pressed open. I don't guess it really matters. Just, you know, your preference. Okay. I need one of those little silicone guards for the tips of my fingers. Okay, that's it. That's all of them. Okay, so 51.25. Oh man, how do I even? I don't even know how I'm going to measure this, guys. So I'm thinking, I do have a tape measure. Does this even give me 351s? It just does not seem like it's long enough. But like I said, they give you just enough fabric. I'm going to cut the selvage off of this one. Because we do not need that in our... So I have 1 to 20. Okay. So if I do 1 to 20, okay, 1 to 20, that is 40. 150, 1 and a quarter. So I'm going to take my pencil, please have a blue one, right there. Okay, I marked it. You guys see that? That should be 51 and a quarter. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go to 20. 40. 1 and a quarter. Okay. One more time. I'm hoping this is the right thing here. 20. 20. Oh yeah. 10. 1 and a quarter. I'm going to measure that again. Measure twice. Cut once, right guys? Measure twice. Sometimes 3 times. Cut once. Okay. And I'm actually going to mark them all this time. So there's 20. There's 20. See, I'm glad I did that. This one was looking a little short, so marking this one. All right, let's do it again. That's why I'm marking and not using my finger. 20. 20. My pencil is breaking. Okay. Then I might have been stretching the fabric a little bit, so I'm trying not to stretch the fabric. All right, there's my cuts. Pray for me, people. Okay. Go for my first big long line. Do you believe this is it? So I'm going to lay my fabric across this line. Match up this line or a line on this ruler. And I'm using these lines on my mat. There's one. Okay, so I must have missed one line. Where's the other big line? There it is. Again, I'm going to line up my lines here. There are my 3 pieces. Let's hold them up together to make sure I did not mess that up. If I did mess it up, I have that silver fabric up there, guys. Okay. And then I have extra on this piece here. And there is my line for that mark. And I have this left over. That can go in my scrap bin. So it looks like if you do this correctly, you're going to have seams toward the ends. Now I did mess up one cut on one of my squares and I fixed it. Luckily there was enough fabric left to where I could sew it back to the piece I had cut. I was distracted talking to my husband and I cut it wrong. I cut it short. Alright, so these are okay. Alright. I'm off a little bit there, but it's okay. All right. We will make it work. Next up is to lay out the squares. And to lay out the squares, like I said, if one's a little short, I have enough fabric to sew back to it. You're going to alternate dark and light. So I think, see how these are every other? But these are all lights. Going up this way, these are all darks. I don't know. I think I want to do like dark, light, light, dark, light, and zigzag it that way. All right, so let me see. It says we're going to sew 7 of these together. Yep, 7. Get on the right side, Shannon. Make 4 vertical rows using 7 blocks for each row. You can alternate light, dark, or do separate rows of light, dark. I'm going to alternate. So we're going to do 7. So 1. Divide up my piles here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start over. 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm going to make my stacks. Then we're going to sew them together and I'll bring you guys back. Okay, so what I decided to do was I laid out my 4 bundles of squares and light, dark, and I started at a light. I went light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, I went to 7, made 1 stack. Then on the next stack, I started with the dark and went around just like I did the first one, but ended with, you know, so on the next one, I started with the next light and went around. Then on the next pile, I started with the next dark and went around. So that's how my stacks are alternated. So each one is configured a little differently. And here are my sashings. Okay, so now we are going to sew these rows. I'm scared. I'm so scared. I'm always scared when I sew. All right, I'm going to look. I don't think it really matters about the like how your seams are going in the back. I don't think it really matters. So I'm going to sew my rows. And I'll be back after we sew the rows. Okay guys, so I got the first row done and added the sashing. So just to show you, there's the first row done with the sashing. Super easy. And now I'm just going to sew my next set of squares. Add another thing of sashing to this side. We're going to add a piece of sashing. Then we'll another row, piece of sashing, and another row, and so forth and so on. So let me get to sewing this stack, and I'll show you when the top is done. Okay guys, we have made our blocks. We have cut our sashing. We have put our pieces together. Now I added a border. The pattern doesn't call for a border, but I thought it would be really pretty with a border, and I had some fabric that went along really well with it. So I did cut 4.5-inch strips, which will make the border 4 inches after it's finished. And here, I'll just show you the top 2 rows. And there'll be pictures at the end. I love it. I love it. I did place them like I was telling you where they go in a diagonal. I love it. And then there's the border. My sunlight has gone away, guys. The border is a really pretty silver gray, and it just matched up really pretty. I wanted it to be just a little bit bigger so I could snuggle underneath it. So that is the Whirlygig quilt. And again, super easy to follow. This, if you're an experienced quilter and you're very efficient and very organized, you could easily have this done, especially the top. You could get the top done in a day. And then you could get the back and the backing and the binding on in a day too, which I have to go buy my batting. So the finishing video will be coming up soon. I gotta go get my batting. And I will have to probably make my backing piece a little bit bigger since I did add those borders. But I have more of this to add to it if I need to make my backing bigger. But that's it, guys. It was so really, really easy. As you saw, the blocks are very simple to piece and put together. And again, the sashing, super easy to do. So yeah, next video, we're going to add our batting and our backing and our binding. But I'll have all the information down below. Pineapple Fabrics, the Diana packs, everything, if you'd like to sew along with this. And there's other patterns too. There's other patterns. So you don't have to do the Whirlygig quilt. It just seemed very easy to do for me. All right, guys, that is it. As always, thanks for watching. And I can't wait to start our next project. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be something. We'll do something together. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one.